Alrighty guys, welcome back to the channel. We are T-minus 13 days until running driving car. Until running driving car. Dude, look at this. Remember, completely bolt on. Anyway, this video got to get springs done on the front end, and it is going to have wheels, tires on it today. I have to get it off the lift to get another project in here to use the lift. And I'm not putting this thing on the table right now. It is going to go back on wheels and tires so I can move it under its own power. So today has to be suspension links. Hey, you guys get to see it. Suspension links. And then for right now, I'm not even going to take apart the back. As of right now, I'm just going to bolt tires back on it. And that way I can back it out under its own power. We have to go get the other OG back breaker. And I'm not sure if we're going to take the carburetors apart on that one yet or not, but we're still going to take apart the back end of this thing on this video. So today is suspension links, get it back on the ground, and then like I say, I have another project I have to get done, or I have to get working on, I should say, continue working on. That one's coming in, and it's going to be taken up to lift for probably a full day and a half, so till tomorrow midday. Still behind, don't get me wrong, we're still way behind, but it's moving along. I got a light at the end of the tunnel as far as the front, and the back I don't think it's really going to be that big of a deal. So right now, suspension links. Woohoo! It will be sitting on tires in another couple of hours. So gonna get to that right now, and then we'll get this thing with tires on it and get it backed out of the garage and move on to the next project. Alrighty guys, I got a bunch of pieces cut out real quick. These are gonna end up being my little links, like my shackle kind of deal. So I'll kind of show you what goes on here and how they're gonna work and whatnot. So essentially, I've got a bung here that a Heim will screw into. This guy's gonna go like that. And these guys are gonna get welded on each side like this. So essentially it'll be on the car like that. Spring right here, shackle straight down. Get them welded up and get bungs put in, or Heims put in them and everything, and get this car sitting on suspension. Alrighty guys, so now we got to get the bar from here up to there put in, pretty much directly under here. And we got to get the crossbar and a slider put in for the bottom. So that's what we're working on now. Alrighty guys, in an efforts of time, I'm trying to hurry up, and unfortunately I'm not filming very much. I know it's bad, but I at least want to get you guys caught up now. So long story short, this is kind of what we're dealing with now. So it'll be the brackets like this on top of our tube, and then I added another hole up here, which I'm probably not going to need. because of the helper back here, but that's how this is actually going to be set up. So as this works, this is like a shackle, but I got to get the other one done right quick and tacked on and then weld it up. Unfortunately, guys, I'm sorry. I just got wrapped up in trying to get the stuff done because it's already late in the afternoon and I need to get another project in here like pronto. So this thing needs to get off the lift. But anyway, that's what we're working with right now. I'll show it to you guys when the other one's done and welded up, and then when we get tires on it, because basically once the tires are on it, it goes back on the ground. So, woo! So we are done as far as all of our brackets got to go, all of our steering link, all of our suspension links, our steering link's done. Everything's done minus the tabs for the brake lines and then my shocks. And I'll do my shocks another minute. I got to hurry up and get this thing off the lift. So right now I have to let some brackets cool off. I got to change some bolts. Actually, I might have to, yeah, I got to change some bolts real quick. And then I got to paint these things real quick to get them all one color. And then basically the whole front end's done, minus, like I say, the shock absorbers and the brake lines. So it's coming along, man. It's already like 4:30 in the afternoon, and this was supposed to be off the lift at like 10. Just dragging butt today. Alrighty, guys, links are done. I think I'm off. Ouch. Links are done. It's all touched up with paint. I'm gonna bolt tires on this thing right now. And we are gonna set it on the ground on suspension because it is what it is. And then I took apart the rear already, 2 links, just 2, because I needed the Heim joints out of them. So I actually changed these over to FKs. So these are actually good Heims. I don't like those chintzy ones. The ones I'm using for the steering, it's not that they're bad, it's that I just don't like the brass like insert that's on them. But anyway, whatever, it doesn't matter. Right now, we are fully set up. I'm gonna bolt some tires on, and we're gonna set this thing on the ground in front. Well, let's see what it does. I don't like the leaf bent so far backwards, but whatever. She's under her own weight. So it's pretty cool. I had some off-road tires I'm gonna throw on this thing for right now, so I guess at worst case scenario, if I have to, I got a gasser. But I just threw these tires on the back for right now and started bouncing the front end. It's about right with those 2 springs. Like, just scratched my paint though, darn it. Anyway, front end's done. It's working. I guess I can put the radiator back on, the shell back on, headlights back in, everything. Like, you know, I mean, honest to God, that's other than shock mount or shock towers, which I'm gonna do as a clamp on setup, and then weld on a couple tabbies on the A-arm, which again I can sand and I can sand off the paint, put tabs on, and paint it right back up. It's just rattle can. That being said, I'm gonna put the front end back together right now. That way the car can start and drive, stuff like that. This thing looks amazing. Essentially, that's full droop. That's as far down as they can go. Like, I'm gonna limit it a little bit more from the shocks, but that is nuts. That is absolutely nuts. So the car's sitting pretty close to level right now. as far as the overall car. And I wonder, there's a tape measure handy. So I wonder how far off the ground the back tires are. Because it looks like it's it's like 19 inches of difference. So theoretically, like hopefully the car at ride height, well, it's gonna go down a lot, so let's settle it right now and see what happens. So it just came off the lift. It just came off the lift. And that looks, dude, about perfect. Again, I'm gonna have a bumper coming underneath the grill and then around the front, because again, I have to block that with something. There's no way I can leave it just like this. But dude, it looks perfect. It looks perfect. Just the way I thought, other than the other spring. And then all the bends and everything else that I didn't think about. Because it's all just like, make it work, right? That's all we're doing is making stuff work. But that thing looks cool. So you figure it's sitting pretty close to level right now. The front's up a little bit. So that means I gotta take the back end down another roughly 9 inches or so with these tires. So I don't know, the rear end might actually end up behind the gas tank a little bit. We'll see how this all pans out. I'm not sure exactly how long, because that full droop in the front end and stuff like that, dude, the drive shaft angle is gonna be like extreme, and I don't know if just standard U-joints are gonna work. But then again, we limit the back, But it looks awesome. It looks so freaking awesome. Oh, look at that. So now the lift is off the back. Yeah, it's actually down a little farther than I want. So I'm gonna have to put a little preload in this. I may have to go to this top hole right here, or put my my blocks on like I was talking about to connect to the second spring, or to contact the second spring right away. That's more travel than the car ever had in the first place. Oh yeah, this is gonna be legit. Alrighty guys, so front end's done. Car's put together. We still have shocks to do. Brake lines, not a big deal. But now, back of the car. Whole nother like can of worms we have to open up. We are T-minus 12 days. Today is a Friday. Whole back of the car has to get done. Roll cage has to get done. And OG backbreaker still has to go get picking up. And carbs or whatever needs to be cleaned out. You know, oil lines, whatnot, stuff like that. But no matter what, today, we're taking apart the rear end. This has to come out. All links have to come out. Rear end's got to come out. Drive shaft. Everything on the rear end's getting disassembled today. Like, it'll never leave the ground. The tires will droop out far enough. It's awesome. Well, I was gonna take the whole rear end out tonight for you guys and whatnot. It's Friday night. We just got invited to go to dinner. So we're gonna go to dinner. And if we get back early enough, I'll come out here and work on this, but if not, I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Because again, this video, this time, this whole situation, T-minus 12 days. We've got 12 days to finish this. It's gonna happen, I promise. So if I don't see you guys tonight, I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Car's coming apart. The next day, time to start taking this thing apart. Hopefully we're gonna have the whole rear end out today and start figuring out how exactly we're gonna put the rear end together. Get the links all figured out, suspension and stuff. So, rear end out of the car. So oddly enough, this entire car revolves around this drive shaft. This was one of my father-in-law's race car drive shafts from back in the day, like the 70s, 80s and stuff like that. And unfortunately, NHRA decided you can't have a chrome drive shaft anymore. So it had to be, couldn't be chromed. So this one got stuck on the shelf and never used again. So it just happened to be laying around my father-in-law's shop, and that's why this car is as long as it is, and that's why this is the way it is because this drive shaft was already made. And I just borrowed it and used it for the car. Anyway. Alrighty guys, so like I say, I'm not trying to change drive shaft. I'm not trying to cut up my drive shaft and like that. So I actually have a couple of old drive shafts that I've been holding on to for years. This one is actually out of my 81 El Camino I had 25 years ago. It's been hanging around. This one is out of one of the trucks I took apart. So going off of measurements right quick, this is 2 3/4. This is 3 inch. So I'm gonna cut this guy open right now and see what the ID of this tube is. If it is the right size, all I have to do is knock off the weights up there. It might slide. This one might slide right in. Well, yeah, it might slide right in this tube. We'll see how close we are. We'd have to sleeve it a little bit. Looks like this is a 2830. So if you look at the difference in thickness, just that little bit. So we may have to like sleeve this somehow before we push it in, and it'll probably butt up to this weld with no problem, and I could probably just use that as my fixed length for my drive shaft and make all my links work with that. So, see what happens. So, cut off the other drive shaft, and what do you know about that? May have to be sleeved a little bit, but, you know, it's a little sloppy, but we can make that work. Good enough for a sand car. Alrighty guys, I'm gonna give you kind of like a really crude way of the way I try and figure out how much drive shaft plunge I'm gonna have. Sorry about the wind, the door's moving, it's windier heck outside. But this is kind of the way I do it, just kind of a real quick idea of how to make links for my uppers and my lowers and stuff. So imagine this is my upper link and this is my lower link and drive shaft. So I just do this very, very primitively, just to kind of get an idea of what is in my mind. Because again, my squirrel cage turns a lot. If what's in my mind will actually somewhat work. So how I have this set up is drive shafts in the middle, obviously, and then you have your upper and lower links. So this would be like a cut view of the center section of the rear end. So like essentially you'd have, like this would be your cut for your U-joint right here, and your upper and lower pivots. So for me to cycle the whole thing to kind of figure out how much drive shaft plunge I'm gonna have and then how much pinion angle I'm gonna change, I can measure all this stuff out with an angle finder and get within a couple of degrees. For me, this is a sand thing. Doesn't have to be perfect at all. If this was gonna be like a road race car or something, completely different story. But as it is right now, we have a black mark right here where the cup would be, basically on the drive shaft. So I can take this guy off now, move this guy down. So at full droop would be 17 inches is what I'm shooting for now. So from this point to this point, 17 inches. Close enough. This guy's gotta go in here. So now I can take my drive shaft, what normally was up here, and you can see where the black mark was for the cup, but now be down here. So I can take this, the magnet right there, and you can see where my cup was, or is, and where it was. So from back of where this cup is to back down to here is about 1.5 inches. So overall I have 1.5 inches of drive shaft plunge at 17 inches of travel. Again, it's a sand thing. That's more than I want. I want to keep it under 1 inch, but for what I'm using this car for and how often it's going to be used and how often I'm going to cycle this thing full travel, it's probably never going to happen. Like, this car might get jumped once. So anyway, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But that's kind of my primitive way of just trying to figure out drive shaft plunges and stuff like that and how much it has to change. You can change lengths of links and then positions and stuff like that, but with what I physically have on the car, my upper link is going to be all the way up above my U-joint, up inside the center tunnel, and my lowers are going to be basically below the car. So that spread is that much. It's 11.5 inches. Oddly enough, the spread on my rear end is also 11 inches. So that's about the same. And you can manipulate these points, like there's CAD programs and like link setups and stuff like that, that I'm not a computer person, so this is more hands-on for me. I kind of have a better idea of it. This is like the very first primitive way I do it. And then after I do it like this, and I get kind of where I want it, I'll actually cut some pieces of wood or something like that and make solid links and cycle the whole thing that way, because that tells me if I can do what I'm trying to do. It's very primitive. I know it's not going to give me the correct pinion angles and driveline angles and stuff like that, but overall, for what I'm using the car for, a couple degrees off isn't going to matter. But like I say, so from like right here, if we go back up to essentially ride height is about here. So at ride height, I'm only looking at less than 1 inch. So from here at ride height, basically from here up, the drive shaft's going to plunge 1 inch into the transmission and then down about another 1/2 inch out. That's good enough for my eyes. It's probably a little more than I should have, but there's nothing I could really change on how my links are built, where I can make my mounts inside the car. I only have so much room to work with, so it's kind of what I got to deal with. But my lowers are a lot shorter than I wanted, but to keep the plunge at a minimum, stuff like that, it just is what it is. So this is kind of the idea of what's going on and how much drive shaft plunge we're going to have and how the rear suspension links are going to be built, the lengths and stuff like that. Obviously, they're going to be, built stuff. But anyway, just to give you guys kind of an idea. Alrighty guys, that's going to be the end of this video. Front end's done. We still have to do shock towers somehow or another, and then brake lines. That's kind of a given. I'm going to make those other bushings this week. I'll take care of those. The rear drive shaft, I got a couple drive shafts pulled out, and I went ahead and I cut the one, and it'll sleeve inside the other, so I'm pretty sure I can make my own drive shaft. I did have to buy a slip yoke though. The slip yokes that I have that are for the transmission, these guys are just standard slip yokes, and they don't have like much angle of the dangle. So like that's all it's got, and I need to get more out of this. So I went ahead and I cut this one open just to get more, geez Louise, it's windy, just to get more travel out of right here. But the problem with that is you start getting into like the casting part where the cap is and things like that. You start weakening it way too much. So I ended up ordering a brand new one. It's a little bit longer, so I'll have to cut it down to make it the exact thing for my plunge and stuff like that. But the ears are longer, so you get more angle out of it. But anyway, we've got our drive shafts that we're gonna use for the back. The rear already has plenty of pivot. That should work okay. I have all the stuff for the rear brake lines. The front brake line stuff is going to be here hopefully tomorrow. So next video I should be able to do front brakes, stuff like that. That's where we're at with the car right now. Front end is working, guys. It all came out pretty decent. You know, like the helper spring, I'm glad I did it the way I did. I still have to get the neoprene little blocks right here. So that's not a big deal. I hope we don't break this guy because, man, we're bending this thing bad. Like, it's going way up here. Whatever. But it all works. If you guys like what you see and you want to keep watching this stuff, please subscribe, comment. I love reading the comments. Hit the like button. It helps me out a lot. Helps grow the channel. Hope to see you guys out in Glamis because, again, this is all for Merlin's birthday. So that being said, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Stick around, watch the next one. The back will be hoping to be done in the next one, but probably not, because the way my life goes, it's probably not gonna happen. But that's where we're at. Take it easy. See you on the next video.